Tito Ortiz. Well, he's not just a fighter. He's a man who dragged himself out of the dirt into the spotlight and then back into the fire again. Tito Ortiz lived the kind of life most people only talk about: pressure, chaos, legacy, heartbreak, comebacks. He's taken massive blows, hits inside of the cage, and life-altering hits outside of it as well, and somehow he kept getting back up. That's what The Edge is all about. So stay with me, because this conversation goes places you don't expect. Real, raw, masculine truth. No fluff, no politics, just two men talking about fighting through life and what it takes to keep your head straight when the world tries to break you. This one you'll feel. Buckle up. Let's go. All right, here we are with Tito Ortiz in his beautiful restaurant, Tito's Cantina in Cape Coral, Florida. Appreciate your time.
Yes, yeah, Joe, thank you for coming out.
So you're still working out, man.
A little bit. Well, I mean, I'm the head wrestling coach at Ivy High School. I've been there, started my third year there. My kids are juniors, so I walked in the restroom, first practice, still a freshman. I was like, can I come help? She's like, we can't pay you. Like, don't worry about it. I'll do it for free. I mean, I've having a career of 25 years mixed martial arts, of course, coaching over 18 years. You know, I started my freshman in college coaching high school team, and coached at high school for all 4 years. So that was the youth group at Calvary Chapel. Started helping me with my kids, and they did the rest of it in 6.
So this is fascinating. And let's just do this. This is The Edge. The Edge is about guys being no politics anymore. Just dudes being allowed to be dudes again. It's okay to be masculine. None of the bullshit going on. Just and so what we've done is I talked to Brett Favre, Patrick David, a bunch of people who got Jordan Belfort, who gotten their ass handed to them at some point, but figure out a way to get back up, right?
Yes.
And I think you epitomize that coming from Huntington Beach, California. Tell us about the early upbringing. I read that you struggled, your family struggled early. Tell us about that.
You know, life was normal to about 6 to 7 years old. You know, I'm a happy family. I have 3 older brothers, me, my mother and father. Everything was great. My father had a hernia. He was at the hospital. They put him on morphine. He came out of the hospital and he had an addiction. And his brothers turned him on heroin. And all of a sudden they started doing heroin, and life spiraled out of control. My mother started using it with my father, and then
Mom and Dad were using it.
Yeah.
And you're 6, 7 years old?
That's how I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
And lost their house. We're moving in motels, trailer parks, ended up at my grandma's house, the age of 13. And my mother told my father to get sober or I'll keep my son. And hard thing for my mother, because mother loved my father like no other, and she just couldn't get sober. And she left, brought me back to Huntington Beach, because we lived in Santa Ana at the time. And life changed for me completely. You know, I was going back to Huntington Beach, but I still hanging around the wrong people. And said, you know, around this who you become. And I was hanging around with gang member guys, and come to realize this is not what I wanted. I started my freshman year in high school, and I heard about wrestling. I was like, all right. Walked to the wrestling room, like, Coach, where's the ring at? The ring? Well, yeah, like in WWF. No, WWE now. But he's like, no, this is real wrestling. It's like college wrestling. This is Olympic wrestling. I was like, can you throw the guy in his head? He goes, actually, you have points for it. I was hooked, line and sinker. You know, my true name is Jacob in the Bible. Jacob is his angel. Angel beat him to save his life. The wrestle is what saved his life. The wrestling saved my life to that point.
So you hadn't done anything. You weren't fighting. You were fighting on the streets. Like, you just wanted to.
I mean, I had older brothers beat my butt all the time. Fight a little bit on the street. I mean, with gangs and stuff, this stuff I just doing was not.
So at some point, you're doing this. Next thing you know, I'm a young guy watching this new thing called UFC
93.
Yeah, and I see Tito just lusting and you're kicking ass. How did you make the jump from traditional real wrestling into mixed martial arts? Which discipline did you do? So it's a little of everything, right?
Yeah, well, when I first started, it was strictly wrestling. And a guy who used to fight in UFC, Tank Abbott, lived in Huntington Beach also. Well, his wrestling coach was my high school wrestling coach. I was in college at the time, so I started wrestling Tank. And he was fighting UFC, fought UFC 6. Probably one of the most scariest knockouts that he did against another guy. I was like, God, that stuff's crazy. And my coach, Paul, he called me and goes, hey, you can come to help with Tank and wrestling from him, of course. So I started wrestling with them, and I was getting takedowns, and I was tough, and I liked it. I go, this is
so they brought you in to help
refine Tank's wrestling skill in the cage.
Yep. And I mean, he was a wrestling kind. I mean, in high school also. You know, I'm not sure if he wrestled in college. I know he played football, but he was known as just a barbell. You know, punches and so forth. But his wrestling was good. But at the time, I won the junior college state championship, and I was 199 pounds, 200 pounds. And I started wrestling with him, and I was doing well against him. And then I started hitting focus mitts with boxing with his boxing trainer. And he's like, "That's you the best power in your hands." I watched UFC 13. I think went on UFC 12. I watched, and Eric Bolling, the guy who I wrestled in high school. I scolded him. I was like, "God, this guy's unlocking." Was it Kevin Jackson, who's an Olympian in wrestling, gold medalist actually, and arm locked him. And I was like, I beat that guy wrestling in high school. I wonder if I could do this. And I was doing a little bit of jiu-jitsu at the time. So I fought my first time UFC 13, May 30th, 1997. I fought for free because I was in college. I didn't want to lose my scholarship. And I took a chance. It was just, I'm very competitive at everything I do. And it was never about the money. It was all about competition. I'm not a fighter. I'm a fighter in life. I've always had to fight, but it was competition to me. I don't really want to cause inflict damage on somebody for no reason. For me, it was competition. I always put client and secret on high blood.
So how'd you get into the UFC?
Take out it, got an opportunity to fight UFC 13 as an
we'll get to Dana White.
Well, this is before Dana White even owned it. It was owned by SCG. Bob Meyer was owned the company at the time. He was partners with Royce Gracie's family. And I got an opportunity as an alternate. I fought at 199. They had 3 weight classes. They had lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight. That was the only weight class that they had. They just started putting in gloves. They have mandatory gloves. It took a lot of the rules. They put in a lot of rules.
Yeah, no more headbutting.
No more headbutting and stuff like that.
I remember Butterbean split up in his forehead.
I think that Butterbean was a boxer.
Okay, well, he was in the ring. They split his head wide open.
That was in Pride, and you were allowed to do that. But at UFC, they gave us rules head. So I was like, you know what? I want to give this a try. And I stopped my first guy in 22 seconds. I was hooked. I was like, I had never had a feeling like that before. When you have 15,000 people screaming, Tito, 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 it's addicting. And I just trained my butt off. You know, I trained super hard. I went back to college, get my AA degree, going to get my bachelor's degree with Cal State Bakersfield, wrestled with Stephen Mill, national champion. And the training there I learned there was just hard, and it was grinding, same stuff that made it easy to fight.
What we talk about this a lot. It varies. Brett Favre, Patrick McDavid, everyone's had their struggles. You know, at some point, did you have any fear getting into the ring? Was there ever fear involved?
Every one of the fights I had fear.
Yes, tell us about it.
So before I would go out and fight, I'd warm up in a room, the wrestling in the locker room. And right before who was the guy who would call us out, line us up to walk out, be like, all right, let's roll. Right then, my motion kicked in. I would throw up anything in my stomach that was out of my stomach. I'd walk out. And as we're walking out, I'd have tears coming down my eyes. And I think it might have been a little bit of tears of fear or tears of emotions, but it was the fear leaving my body.
Okay.
So by the time I got into the cage, there was no more tears. I knew I was ready. Every rock behind me was unturned, and I put in the work, so it was time to leave.
Let me throw some at you. I don't think I've ever shared this with anyone. Early on, it was in professional baseball. Blew the rotator cuff. I went to Wall Street, did very well on Wall Street. Eventually, I got called in to come work for Fox News. I became a news analyst. And one day they said, can you fill in for Glenn Beck? Glenn was the biggest show. Bill O'Reilly, the biggest show. But while I'm doing, first time ever, I was way above I've never hosted a show like this before. 3 million people. And I had the same too. I had the fear, but fear. And they used to start the Glenn Beck show with 3, 2, 1, Beck. I'll never forget. 3, 2, 1. The fear dissipated. It just went away. It was like total focus.
Yes.
Where is that? Where does that come from? You got to say
that comes from training. That comes from repetition. Doing it over and over and over where your body's just an automatic. It's just a reaction that when the competition comes into key of the repetition that I put in, all the training, the sparring, the running, the weight training, down to the dieting, to what I ate, make sure I eat clean.
So you lose the fear because you know you're ready. The fear is,
I look behind
prior to you actually stepping in and walking out, fear is of the unknown. And when the shit's about to hit the fan, you know you're ready. So it blows with the fear card.
Every wrestling shirt. I think that fear is left as soon as I step my first foot in the cage.
Okay, so now you're fighting. Tito has his own style. All of a sudden, you become the face of UFC.
So that's when it was by my Zufa brothers, Lorenzo and Frank Tita. They started the company. They put Dana as the president. He was my manager at the time before he became president. His friend Jim Gallo was an attorney, so he became my manager. So there's a little bit of conflict of interest in my view. This is all my opinion, of course. But I was the face of the UFC. I mean, I was brash, bleach blonde hair, flames on my shorts. I kind of said what was on my mind. I never lied. I never talked about people's family. I talked about a person's country, the championship. And I was the champ at the time. And I just knew if I worked really, really hard, that I could perform at the level that I wanted to perform. And I had to make sure that every rock was in term value.
Did doubt ever creep into this at some point? Anyone you're about to fight, did you ever have that moment of maybe it's time to give this up?
No, because I was so competitive, and I was making good money, and I don't want a 9-to-5 job. I like to make some hours.
So, can we talk about this a little bit? So you paid to be in the ring, but that's not fuck you money.
No.
Where was the money? Endorsements? You did a clothing line.
I have my clothing company, Punishment Athletics. I've been had some good sponsors, of course. It was enough to make my family happy. That's what I wanted. At the time, I had my wife, Kristen, or she's my ex-wife now, and my son, Jacob, was just born. I was the champion, and I realized I'm a father, and I got to protect him and give him everything I'll never had. As a kid growing up on the streets, living on government cheese, powdered milk, not sure if the lights are going to be on that night. Not sure I'll have hot water. If I don't have hot water, I have to boil hot water, put it in the bathtub, doing my homework at candlelight. I never wanted that for my kids. So I know I had to sacrifice everything to give my kids everything I've always wanted. And now that I have twins, my oldest son, Jacob's at Arizona State University, 23 years old. He's a criminal justice psychologist, his major. Smart, brilliant kid. I got twin boys now who are 16. And I think I gave them too much of an easy life because right now it's kind of, they feel entitled. And the entitlement right now is
I mean, it could be the world.
It is the world, and it's kind of hard because a lot of families, they're parentless, where there's not a mother or there's not a father. Or some kids are not both. And they don't understand the respect value that, to me, when I worked for Trump on the Subway Apprentice, it goes, you got your word, you got your game. That's all you got for the rest of your life. And that stuck with me like nothing I ever can remember. And if I work hard and people respect me, I can get a lot out of it.
So I want to go back to the peak, and let's go to the peak with 2005. The Shamrocks.
Yeah.
Tell us about those. I remember Ken Shamrock specifically. Like, what the hell? He was an animal.
He was a monster, but his stepbrother's foster brother, Frank Shamrock, who beat me and taught me how to step up my cardio at a professional level, is what changed my whole career. It changed me completely. It made me a true fighter. That's how I became the world champ.
How do you do that?
So atomic heart rate monitor, getting my heart rate up in the red where it's 180 beats per minute. And how fast that minute can you get it down, do the head lead down. And so I'd go from 180 and I'd get down to 100 to 102 in 30 to 40 seconds.
Control,
mental. Yeah. That had been in good cardio shape of running, pushing myself during training as hard as I possibly could, getting the most out of each and every day. And I wasn't thinking about the whole camp in general. It was just taking it day by day. And I learned that in wrestling also was taking it day by day because I found the whole season of being 6 months, like, God, this is a lot of work. And it gets to you mentally, it gets to you physically, emotionally. But if you're able to take day by day, that's in life in general. If you take day by day, at least you prepare for the next day. That's how you get better. And that's how I got better through fighting was I prepared each and every day like it was the last. And I made sure I pushed myself through the roof. And I was doing this cardio king. I had vertebrae in my neck, fractured on a C7 in my neck. But I've had back surgery. I've had alpha 5 S1 fears like that too. I've had 4 neck surgeries. I've had T3, T2, T1, C7 disc thoracic. Yep. Then I had C6, C7 fuse. C6, C5, C5, C4 disc replacement. And and this is a 25-year career, of course, and 2 knee surgeries, 2 ACL replacements. But over the last year and a half, I found a company, CPI, out of Tijuana, where you do the stem cell injections. I actually get arrested with the kids then. I have
Well, you wrestled the one after you broke a vertebrae, right?
Yeah, I fought. Yep. After all my surgeries, after all my fractures, I always competed. I just have a mental strength that most people don't have, but to me, it was survival. It was, I had to because I had to pay my bills. I had to because I had to make sure my kids, there was food on the table, there was clothes on their back, the lights were on, hot water. Those are things I remember as a kid that I don't want my children to even see that stuff. So it was more of a sacrifice for me. It was more of, I was helping build a company, and I was making sure that my family was provided with financial means.
I'm sure you do. You're willing to share. There must have been a day where, towards the end, where you still thought you had it, but someone, whether it's a sponsor or a big name or a coach or a manager, says, it's done.
There was a few times of that. I think after my back surgery, I questioned myself because I was in bed for 3 months. I had L45S1 fused. I couldn't get out of bed. It was hard for me mentally, really, really hard. But it was just looking in the mirror and saying, you know what? You can do this. Suck it up. Get it done. And I did. I
Forgave you there. Where'd you get there?
I think I dug down.
I asked everyone who says that, and they did it to a T, to the successful men that we interview. Where did you find that? And they said, I get knocked down 7 times to get up the 8th. And to a big person who was their father.
Well, I didn't have a father, so
That's what I'm saying. Where did that come from?
I love the attention. As a kid growing up, I never had attention. I never had a dad to say I'm haughty. I never had a dad to give me a hug. At least when I was before 6 years old, yeah, I remember little bits of it. But after that, when I was in my adolescence or high school, it was never around. I was in college, when I was a champion, it was never around. I missed that emotion, and to me, it was a disconnect that I thought that I needed to kind of connect and find it. I reached out to him a few times, and he couldn't apologize for what he put me through. And I understand that I can't judge him, only God could be the judge. I forgive him. Lately, he passed away 2 years ago. I forgave him. I had his ashes. He was left alone. He passed away alone. I got his ashes. I spread his ashes at the beach that I grew up on, and crying. I said, I forgive you, Father. I understand what you went through. I understand why you chose what you did, but I understand the problem you had is an addiction that you couldn't beat, and you chose drugs over me. And to me, that loneliness feeling, I didn't want that. And I think the driving the people who tell you that you can't do something, I don't believe that. I believe I'm going to try it.
But your energy came from basically the audience, the folks watching, and the adoration of the fans.
The fans.
Kind of replaced what maybe was lacking. I think that would be like psychology here, but
yeah, no, it was missing 100%. No, you're correct. 100% it was missing, and it was something that I loved. But at the same time, it was just see my body transformation from being out of shape to in shape was like, I was almost like a fitness guy. I was like crazy. I was like, I look at my body, I'm chiseled. I'm like, okay, this is working. This is good. It's that positive reinforcement that I was able to bring before the fights. When I was prepared to compete, I would get my hand raised. I had all those people screaming, have that attention that I was always lacking as a child. Now I was getting it as an adult. And then I grew up in UFC when I first started. I never fought before when I fought UFC with a tank ever. I rolled the tank. I never sparred the tank. I just wrestled with them. But I just got better, and better. And it was just like, to me, it was just hitting the top of the peak as I possibly could. And then losing to Randy Couture and hitting the valleys, lowest valleys I've ever hit. And have to look in the mirror and go, you know what, Tito? You need to pick yourself up and you need to get the stuff. Do you want to be broke? Do you want to push your shop cars? Do you want them to sleep on the streets? Do you want to still to live? I'm not that type of person. I think God has provided me with great skills, but with a great mindset of being an honest man, and just worked really, really hard. I've always worked hard at everything I've ever done, and this goes back to Trump telling me, you have your word, you have your name, and I have my name. I never want to tarnish my name. I have my word. I always keep my word to a certain point that I possibly can. Sometimes I get pulled different directions, of course, but I think at the end of the day is being responsible for my own actions, looking in the mirror and talking to myself, because I'm the only one that can make that decision.
When did a Dana White relationship go south? Because you guys you were the top of the top of the UFC. He was there, and then next thing you know, there's a problem. What happened?
I think it was after the Ken Shamrock fight, the first one, and I realized, they're selling out 15,000 seat arenas, pay-per-view buys, a couple 100,000 pay-per-view buys, and I was making 100 grand,
Yeah,
and they're making,
30 million, 40 million.
yeah, not that time. They're probably making about 15, but still at the same time, I watch boxers and they're making 20 million, 10 million, 5 million. I was like, what am I doing different than they're doing? I'm doing the entertainment value. I'm doing all the interviews for free. I'm traveling for free. I'm doing all this free work for you guys, but I'm going to put my life on the line. I'm not going to be able to do this the rest of my life. UFC's going to be around forever. And they've grown bigger and bigger. I mean, they sold the company for $4.5 billion. Then they turned back around and they sold their rights to Paramount for $7.7 billion. For me to have to be a blue collar guy right now, I shouldn't have to. I should, as you said earlier, I should have fuck you money.
So you tell him, and he says
no. He goes, where you get pay-per-view buys that Mike Tyson will be getting that type of money. I said, okay, cool. So I waited it out. Re-signed a contract again. We're close together. I did Ultimate Fighter against Ken Shamrock for our second fight. We got over 4.8 million pay-per-view views on Spike TV. I made a little extra money. I was like, all right, this is okay. It's better than what McDonald's would make. But still, now they just signed a deal with direct with Spike TV for over 250 million. I was like, okay, man, I see those numbers. I see numbers that they're getting at the gate. I see the rights that we're selling out. We're doing video games,
even wrestling, the top names are getting a lot.
To me, I think I overstepped my boundaries by counting the numbers. I should have never counted the numbers, but I had to kind of think about what my future was going to be. What am I going to do when I'm like 50s or 40s? I wanted to retire at 40. I mean, I didn't retire until I was 47. I wanted to retire when I was 40, but I had to continue to fight, pay my bills. I mean, I lived a certain lifestyle, yes. I don't live a Madison lifestyle, flying Lear jets and private flights. So I don't do that. I mean, I'm a normal guy. I like doing normal stuff. But to see that, and as it grew so fast, and I was still making, I'm ready to fight, and I'm making 70 million, it just rubbed me wrong. And I think I kind of bit the hand that feed me. I should have done it. Lorenzo was always a great guy to me. Tito was always a great guy to me. Dana was always a great guy to me. But when it came to business stuff, I just always wanted to say, what was next? What you guys do extra for me as a business, extra work for you? And I think as I spoke, other fighters started speaking out with that also, with a big lawsuit that they just lost because fighters tried to step up. And I'm thankful for it because I got a little bit out of it. And it is something that I put my name on the line for such a long time, 16 years for him with UFC. Be the first light heavyweight champion, be one of the longest reigning light heavyweight champions until John Jones beat my record. But I mean, I was the star, and to me, it wasn't just about me. It was about my family. I want to make sure I was able to take care of my family forever. So
now only 15, 20 years down in the hindsight, in the rearview mirror, do you think you would tell Dana White that maybe he wants to hear or would like to hear? What is the
number one is sorry. I mean, I apologize the way I went about things. There's a lot of times that I got pulled different directions that people told me what I thought I deserved, and it wasn't the right decision, I don't think, at that time. And at the end of the day, I loved the guy. He helped me out so much. Lorenzo Fertitta helped me so much. The company in UFC, they helped me so much. But I kind of bit the hand that fed me, and it was a shame on me because when Dana was my manager and he was dealing with Bob Meyerowitz at the time, I remember him during negotiations and this is what we want, this is what we get. If you don't want it, we're going to go somewhere else. I hung the phone up. I was like, look, what are you doing? He's like, this is the way we're going to do it. This is the way we negotiate. That's how I learned how to negotiate, was how he had to negotiate. So he kind of taught me the way he did it, and that's why I thought that's the way it's supposed to be. Well, that's the way I do it against him. You're not supposed to do that against him. And I think I made a big mistake by doing that. And then at the end of the day, I thank for the UFC for doing what they did. But I put my life on the line so many times. So many times I competed, with ruptured disc, fractured orbital bone. But I still put my name on the line. I still went out and competed. Every day you asked me to come fight, I would come fight. Then there was a couple times I didn't because I had 22 stitches on my eyebrow and I told Dana that I couldn't fight. It was everybody else, the ultimate fighter, they do it. Well, that's not everybody else. I'm totally different. Then I'm sitting here throwing up and cuss, and then I'm repeat. I can't do that. I could do that. So at the end of the day, I'm thankful for what they did. I've done so many interviews with all guys do Dana, and he still just has no cordialness towards each other. I forgive him. Life's too short to hate him. I have no hatred towards his back. He's done great for the business. He's done great for a lot of fighters. A lot of fighters now are getting paid great money. I just was in the beginning. I was the guy speaking up. I was the only one that had the balls to speak up. And I was willing to sacrifice everything to make that happen.
Good. So now here we are at Tito's Cantina. When did this come into play? And tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I'm here in Cape Coral, Florida. We lived here 3 years ago. Usually Sunday, me and my family eat Mexican food. And in Southern California, they're everywhere. So I tried all the Mexican food in this area in Cape Coral, and there's no Mexican food. And this was just kind of a tester. This was just for fun. I just was like, I love to cook. I've been cooking since I've been 9 years old. I did culinary arts in high school and college. Mexican food is like,
you cook here?
Yeah, I get back there. I cook also, but now I got other cooks that help. So I'm mostly out here shaking hands and greeting tables, serving food, serving drinks behind the bar, making drinks. I like to do everything. I'm willing to do everything, all the way down to clean the toilet if I have to. I do everything here, and I want to kind of lead by example. So when the servers are here and they say how I present it to you, well, I always say, welcome to Tito's Cantina. Thank you for joining. My name is Tito Ortiz. This is my place. If you would take a double take the everything. Ultimate Fighting Tito Ortiz, right? Yeah, so why are you there? And the reason I moved here was California is upside down. Living there for 47 years. I had my twin boys who were 13 at the time, and the schools were just indoctrinating my kids. I had to carry a gun everywhere I went. Carried a 9mm in my lap, in my waistband, concealed.
Yeah, you can do it here. Legally, you can do it.
I didn't have a concealed carry in California, so I kind of broke the law. But my friends who were PD and sheriff, they go, Tito, now you got to carry. This is right after 2020. COVID happened with it then, and people being robbed their homes and people getting robbed in the street. I wanted my kids to be around somewhere where they lived the way I lived when I was in high school, where it was nice. Everybody walking down the street, hi, how are you? Just neighborly love. And when I came here for Hurricane Ian in 2022 to help out, one of my friends who lives here, I visited him in Miami a bunch. I called him right before the hurricane hit. I go, the hurricane's coming right at you. He goes, no, it's not. He goes, supposed to go camp. I go, no, look at what windy maps, what the map we used for fishing. He goes, wow, it is. It was coming right to him. So it sat over Big County for actually 12 hours, complete destruction. I called him, or actually he called me on Saturday night about 3 a.m. my time in California. He goes, hey, you come down here and help. We're destroyed. I'm doing a show, and I think they can help out a lot, of course. So I talked to a couple of my buddies, one of my friends out in Arizona, Harrison Rogers, and I said, you need to donate some money? They said, yeah, sure. Wrote me a check for $75,000. One of my other friends, Jay Yaten, wrote me a check for $75,000. And I'm very thankful because they gave me an opportunity. Because are you going to go be to work though? Yes. So I think that's why they gave me so much money. But I came, we bought generators, we bought tarps, we bought water. We're doing fuel runs for Napa Shade, Pine Island, or the Captiva, which are the islands close to here. And I watched a community come together because Cape Christian church, that one of my church that I go to, they're feeding 30,000 people a day. And to see the community come together, I was just like, I was like, wow, this is how America should be. And again, all through this country. About a week and a half of being here, went to Fort Myers Beach. I went to Sheriff Carmine, Sheriff of Lee County. And he goes, hey, Tito, you come down to the sheriff's office, talk to some of the guys. I go, 100%. Went down there. He goes, hey, come here. I want to show you this room. They have a big AI room with 200 televisions in it. There's a camera in every classroom in Lee County. There's a camera in every street in Lee County. And there's 2 offices in every school in Lee County. Safety for my kids. There's no homeless encampments here in Lee County, or at least in Cape Coral. The people are awesome. The schools are nice. The safety was amazing. Everybody are nice. The police do their job. I was like, this is a hidden gem. Went back home. I told my wife a little bit with them Cape Coral. She was Cape where? Cape Coral. She was, babe, it's called Cape Coral. I don't care what it's called. We're living here. So me and my wife got married on 11/11/22. We sold our house on 11/16. Moved everything out at 11/17. 11/18, everything was completely cleared out. 11/19, got on a flight. Got here 11/20. Had a left 6. This is hopefully now. So I wanted to do a restaurant. I've always wanted to do a restaurant over the last 20 years. So now Tito's Cantina is the first of hopefully 10. But the restaurant business is very, very difficult just for employees. Yeah, it's hard. The first couple of years were easy because it was fun. Now it's like full-time job. But
Well, before we go, I wanted to give you the traditional The Edge T-shirt.
right on.
I think you epitomize the edge.
Yes.
You get knocked down a ton of times, you get back up, and
There's just no quit.
You don't just survive, you thrive.
Yes, I like pressure. I like when people say I can't do something. I like it because not the fact that it just proved them wrong, but proved myself that I can do it. And looking in the mirror is a lot. That's my number one, is looking in the mirror and making sure I look at myself and say, it's time for you to step it up right now. And it's a lot of psychological stuff that just positive reinforcement. I make sure I do it for myself, and I try to do it for my children also. I'm trying to raise them in. And my kids don't have cell phones. They're both 16.
They must be thrilled with you about that.
Well, I mean, their grades aren't great. So, they get all A's, B's, they get their cell phones back. We got a couple C's, so I take them away. But that's just being a parent. You got to be present. Me and my wife, we work hard. We're both on the same page on everything. We keep our family very structured. And it's important. And it's a learning process. Having 16-year-old boys right now, it is very, very difficult. But, I mean, for all the parents out there, what you're going through, everybody's going through it. But at the end of the day, you got to make sure you have your child, you hug and say you're proud of, you love them, and just give a positive reinforcement. I think it's really important. I mean, on the father side of mine, I never had a dad. So I want to make sure I want to do everything my father did do. And that's being present, that's being loving, and that's just giving them what they need to excel in life.
All right, before we go, name one or two people men that would thrive on the edge, coming into the edge. Do you know anyone who just got tattooed a bunch of times, picked themselves up, dusted it off, and made it work for themselves and thrive going forward?
Rampage Jackson, a close friend of mine, lives in California. He's thriving huge right now. He has his Twitch and Stream media or social media stuff that he's doing right now. He's doing an amazing job. He doesn't even got to fight. He's getting paid really great money with that. One of my friends, Bear, also, he does Jackson podcast. He's a guy who literally, he's running an enterprise right now. I'm to watch a young kid come from Hollywood that didn't have much to what he's done now. I'm proud of both of those guys, man. Those are the guys that.
Well, we'll hit him up. We'll say Tito said.
Yeah, they're amazing guys, man, and they're intelligent, right? And they're always looking for something. What's the next step in life? What's the next step to put them above what they were below?
All right, we'll let you go, brother.
Yes,
open
awesome.
the restaurant. Good
I
to meet
appreciate
you.
it. Yes, sir, man.
Now that is legit Tito Ortiz, a man who lived the fight, bled for the fight, and never stopped fighting all the way forward. Well, if this hit you, make sure you're subscribed to The Edge. We're building something different here, a place where men can talk pressure, pain, purpose, without apology. New episodes every week, more legends, more fire, more truth. Drop a comment. What resonated most with you? And share this with someone who needs a spark today, because this is The Edge, and we're just getting started.